Hello and welcome to the New York Empire podcast. I'm Dan Hilton and I have Ryan Osgar and Jeff Babbitt with me because the 2022 season will be here before we know it. And we have Empire signings number 3 for Ryan Osgar and 4 for Jeff Babbitt. How's it going today, guys?
It's good.
Doing
I'm
well,
better than
Dan.
Jeff, so it's good.
Yeah.
I'm going to start with Ryan because I already got the thumbs down from Jeff that he thought he should have been the first signing for the Empire this season. I know that, but I'm going to start with Ryan. We do have to get the business side of things out of the way. You being the 3rd and 4th announced signings for the Empire this season. Ryan, starting with you, how easy was it to come back for round 2?
It was basically a no-brainer. I really was considering nothing else. And I was like, when I signed last year, I already knew I was going back for this year. So it was very easy for me.
And is living with Ben Yacht that made it even easier? Or did it hurt that he signed first, or did you feel like getting a first AUDL mention?
No,
you should have started?
Benny is the face of the league. I know my place on this team, and it's beneath Ben.
All right, well, Jeff, over to you. Since arriving in 2016, did you expect that you'd be playing in your 6th season with New York?
Not when I arrived in 2016. No, it was kind of like a very different league at that point. Very different ownership structure. Obviously, we had the Stevens come in kind of more heavily in 2017. So a lot of things have changed. I definitely wouldn't have expected my situation to be what it is today.
All right. Well, yeah, I mean, Jeff, we're going to stick with your time with the Empire here. Again, as I mentioned, going into your 6th season, how do you think your role has changed now as terms of, I mean, when you first came in to now, I mean, still in your 20s, but taking on such a larger leadership role?
Yeah. I mean, my role has certainly changed over the years. When I first got here, New York was kind of like a faceless army. And I think in a lot of ways that was a good thing. Like they just grinded it out. And the coaches really were just like, Jeff, go do as much as you possibly can. And like from a player standpoint, I had more of a role back then than I do now, but from like a leadership standpoint, I've gotten more and more of a role on the team as a captain and, trying to talk to players to come play for us. And however, my player role has definitely been limited. I am more, left on the defensive side most of the time and, don't play offense and defense every single point like I may have in 2016.
Yeah, well, Ryan, Jeff kind of alluded to the fact that recruiting, I mean, we see it across the league. Recruiting has become so much more important. It's so much a bigger part of putting together championship units. You see 1 or 2 big signings. You always wonder what happens there. And obviously, there's always a little bit of, especially a lot of recruiting going on in the Austin, Dallas region where they keep seeming poaching the players from one another. But for you coming from Minnesota, I don't think anything was personal between the Empire and the Winchell rivalry there. But talking about your first season with the Empire, and I'm not talking about wins and losses. I know the team concept, that's what it comes down to, but more coming in, you and I had spoken before the season began about style, about fit, about where you expected you were going to be. How do you think those expectations of playing with the Empire fit how it actually played out in the field?
I would say that there were some things that surprised me, but for the most part, it was what I expected. Like you alluded to before, I live with Ben and we're good friends. And so he had told me a lot about what his experience was like on the team. So I just said and what he told me basically is that the team is very professional. It's very well run. The ownership and the leadership is, they've got all their ducks in a line. So that's what I experienced. And it was really nothing I really had to worry about. I was very well taken care of, and all I had to really focus on is playing, which is amazing. And everything is top class with the Empire. So that's what I expected. In terms of what I didn't expect was in terms of play, the level of play in the league has just elevated so much because I hadn't played in the AUDL since 2018, and so that's what I took 2 years off, I suppose. In the level, and also everyone knows the East Coast division, especially last year when it was a super division, was very competitive. We had a lot of very, very competitive games where we were pushed really hard. So that was super fun. And, I was glad to be surprised in that way.
Well, Ryan, every single teammate I talked to about you said, yeah, I mean, he fit like a glove. He showed up day one. I think you had an amazing first practice, what so many of your teammates had said. And it kind of proved everyone already, he's already going to be a big part of this team. But did you feel like coming in because of not only just the other star players, but because of what the Empire had already established as a championship unit? Did you feel like you were going to be stepping on toes, or did you feel like you need to be a little careful? Or was it really just, I mean, just like your teammates have said, here's the keys to the car, contribute 40% or contribute on 40.3% of all of our goals or assists?
Well, I don't really think about playing in that way. I mean, I definitely, when I first joined the team, I didn't, I always feel like I have to like earn my spot on the team. So I was like trying to do that. So especially, but we had like a lot of practices leading up to our first game. So it's pretty easy. I mean, like it doesn't take too long to really find where you're going to fit in the team. So I felt like I was able to do that pretty quickly. But yeah, just in terms of like how I think about our team and like how we approach the game, it's less so about, like, oh, what can I do? Like whose toes am I going to step on? It's more of a team oriented process where as long as we get the job done, as long as we score and, we did it with ease or, we didn't have much pressure or whatever, that's totally fine. If I want to have multiple points where I don't even touch the disc, I'm totally not involved because that means we're a multifaceted offensive unit. So that's what I want. So yeah, again, it's very fun to like be involved and touch the disc a lot and like, like you said, score a decent amount of points or whatever. But ultimately, that's not what's my motivator or my driver at all. I think it just panned out that way. And I think going into next year, that'll change slightly.
Yeah, we'll have to see what happens. I mean, Jeff, obviously, you're a big part of running that defense. What are the chances you're going to try to recruit Osgar over to the D line this year, Jeff? Any idea?
Well, I was in his ear before last season trying to get him on D line because I need someone that can hook to me. But he did a nice job on the offensive side last year doing that. So
thanks, Joe.
We're working on some other pieces, hopefully for the D line this year, and we're piecing the puzzle together, working out the depth chart. And it may not be Osgar coming to my side, but it could be some other really talented players, and I think we'll be good.
Yeah, well, Jeff, you and I, as the offseason continues on, we're going to keep talking about situating that defense and the different ideas that we've even had from the last two seasons, where the zone coverages of Brian Jones and all the different things he did, as well as now this last season with Charlie Hoppus and Anthony Nunez, just the different looks. And as the team has evolved and personnel changes as well. But Jeff, more personally on you and your offseason workout plan, all this stuff. So usually I do let you off the hook with this question. And I think I've asked this question 3 or 4 times, but people keep getting at me that I have to continue to probe for more detail. So just talking and saying that you do weights it's not going to suffice this time. We actually need details. So I actually do want to ask about, I want days. I want maybe not numbers, unless the numbers you're proud of, but like, what are the actual exercises? What is the actual regimen that Jeff Babbitt, other than genetics? Because I just want to throw that in there too, that genetics does matter. It does play a part. As Ben Yad always said, he works hard, but Ben's also 6'7". So
yeah, I hear that. Yeah, I basically, as soon as the season ended, I started getting into the gym. We built a gym at my house over the last couple of seasons. People maybe saw my concrete weights like years ago during the start of the pandemic. We outfitted the whole gym in non-concrete. They're metal standard weights now, and we got everything in there. So generally, like working out 3 to 5 times a week, depending on what else I may have. So in the past few weeks, I've been playing mini once a week and have had basketball. So then I'm only working out about 3 times. And then that is a day that's focused on squats. And I'm filling that with some other leg movements as well, like single-legged squats, one-legged raised squats on boxes, box jumps, single-leg box jumps. Then I have a deadlift day where that's back focused, a lot of deadlift. Shoulders usually goes that day as well. And then I have like a bench press and cardio type day where I'm working on the assault bike with battle ropes, with my rower, med ball slams, things of that nature. So just like a lot of focus all over the body, trying to make sure that everything's in the right place that it needs to be for the season.
Yeah, Jeff, we had talked about you dealing with injuries. Was it now 2 years ago or 3 years ago? And so much of what the pandemic work was for just getting yourself back to 100% or as close as that you can be. How do you think that this going into this season now, after a last season where you were relatively healthy, have you changed things or have you fortified exactly or feeling comfortable in how you feel?
Yeah, I think that this is the best I've felt since my injury. The pandemic honestly helped me a lot. It was like kind of a blessing in disguise for my body. I was in a tough spot with my back for a long time and really couldn't get it fixed. And my back still has issues. I don't know if it's ever going to be fine again, but for the most part, it's at the best it's been. And the amount of workouts I've put in make my back, my brain trust my back now, and it doesn't affect me nearly as much as it used to. So hopefully I'm good to go for the foreseeable future.
All right, let's head back over to the field. And Ryan, I want to ask, I know stats don't matter. So actually, I might as well ask Jeff this question, especially Ryan, if you decide to plead a fifth on this. But your stats, I said it last week to Ben and Jack, 7 assists, first in the league, 37 goals. 77 assists. I forgot a 7 there. 37 goals, 384 completions, 93.7%. On those, 4,279 receiving yards, 3,084 throwing yards. Those combined are first in the league. I mean, I know it doesn't come down to stats, but how do you think those numbers are going to shake out? And I know you're probably going to say that they're going to go lower because you want more balance in the team. So how do you think the Empire offense is going to be constructed in that those numbers are going to be lower? And who of that O-line do you think are going to raise in those categories based on what you guys are going to look to do this year? It's a complicated question, I know, Brian, but I know you're a smart guy.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I'll try to answer, like, put me on the right track if I start getting off track here. But like, I think in general, we want to get our handlers more involved, distributing more. So we had some injuries last year that kind of threw a lot of our handling core on the offense up into the air throughout the season. So that kind of hurt us a lot. So we didn't have a lot of consistency in that regards. So I think we have a bunch of room to improve there. I also think that having our downfield cutters be more dynamic in general, as opposed to like, okay, so one of the main things is like making sure that we can get Jack downfield more often. That's kind of the main thing, honestly, is like he was like our center handler for like most of the season, which is just bananas. Like Jack can do anything, obviously, but I think he's most dangerous when he's able to flow more freely between downfield and upfield, because he's so versatile and does both so well, that if we can get him to do that more often and have more confidence in our backfield to possess the disc and keep it moving and hold on to it, not turn it over, we'll be more deadly. And then Jack can get more stats, and we can get our handlers to get more stats, and get our cutters to distribute a little bit more of the workload and stuff. And I think that's what we're aiming to do. I think we're going to be creative with the O-line. You've referenced the O-line multiple times. That's not like a set thing at all. Like,
right.
I think there's probably like a 99% chance that Jeff's on the O-line and Benny's on the D-line. So we're just shaking it up this year. We're really going to get everyone on their toes. And you didn't ask about my weightlifting program either. So all my stats really come from just doing biceps. Like I just do bicep curls like every day. One day is one arm, the next day is the next arm, and I just alternate between days. That's my workout plan.
Well, I mean, you say the bicep thing, but as far as the huck percentages on the Empire, you had the greatest number of huck percentages. So clearly, Ryan Osgar is working on arms. And I actually want to ask both of you about Ryan's biceps, or at least hucks around the league. We've seen guys like Austin Taylor just continue to improve over time. But then you have defensive players like, for example, just AJ Merriman for DC Breeze. Do you think that huck defense, and as far as just the physical, as you said, the level of the league is being raised, and I've noticed that certainly downfield, that just the level of defender downfield is getting better and better. Do you think that the league is going to change a bit in its strategy in a way that the Atlanta hustle defensive zone coverages kind of did change a little bit about what offense we're going to be seeing this year? Do you think we're going to see more wrinkles with downfield stuff and hucks that either might limit it or might open it up the other way?
I'll say something, Jeff. You can jump in if you want, but I think it depends on the team, really. Like, I think every team has their own type of like identity, but I do think that in general, we should expect that the overall theme of all offenses is to be more possession oriented, at least for teams who are good. I think Raleigh proved it last year that, like, if you could just possess the disc and not turn it over, you're going to win. Like, we played good defense against them in the championship game. We ended up losing, but they just wouldn't give it up. They were very, very good, calm, cool, and collected, and it won them a championship. So I think people, try to steal things from teams that like are successful. So I think I wouldn't be surprised if teams were more focused on just like, like possession oriented. And I think last year, like this is like a critique of myself last year, is that I was a little too quick to huck the disc. I mean, like, can you blame me? I had like Ben Yard and John Lithio throwing, it's like hard not to throw hucks to them. But, even if you're, 80% completion percentage on hucks, it's not very good. Like I think you want to be like at least like 97% completion percentage on your throws, like, or something like that. Like so if you're throwing 80%, that's like kind of bad in my opinion. So at least that's how I think about it. And I wouldn't be surprised if the league trends in that direction.
I think that I agree with that. I believe that, DC has been setting a standard for a couple of years now, that they play like this small ball, really talented handler core in the Norbombs and Johnny and Rowan, that they just like pass the disc around, try to possess and make it down the field. And obviously DC played Raleigh really well in a bunch of games last year. And Raleigh had a similar system with Saul and Gooch that they just don't turn the disc over. And if you can do that and possess, teams can't stop you. And, our defense over the past has been like focused on taking away the huck. And oftentimes the teams that do the best against us, i.e. DC, and last year in the finals, Raleigh, are the teams that don't play the huck style offense. And something that we're not as good against, right? So if we don't figure out a way to work in that smaller space this year, I think we'll have some trouble, not necessarily against every team because our talent level is so high that we can get away with it. But again, DC is going to be really tough for us if we don't figure something out against their small ball game. And if we play Raleigh in a cross division or in the playoffs, same thing.
Well, one of the teams, Jeff, that has looks like offensively a similar style to what the Empire do was Boston last year. And you and I have spoken about Boston and the Glory plenty of time. They took their lumps in year one, but aside from Ben Sadok, who impressed you in their first season in the league?
Yeah, other than Ben, Orion's going to be the interesting one to watch, right? He's like the young Ben Yacht type figure right now. He's 6'7". He's really strong and he lays out, he gets up high, and he's 20 years old. So over the next few years, he's going to be really interesting to watch. And he had a nice year last year. Tanner Johnson, unfortunately, hurt his ankle like in the second game of the season and was out for a while, and then was sort of in and out throughout the rest of the year. Also a really interesting player. The two of them paired with Sadok, who's a lefty bomber, like that's such a good offense that you can have. And they'll be dangerous in a different way than DC and Raleigh because they have so much offensive skill in a similar way that we do.
Yeah, I mean, scoring wasn't actually their issue in year one. It seemed to be actually stopping teams.
Yes.
Speaking of scoring, one of the teams that did that really well, especially in the championship game, as you mentioned, Ryan, was Raleigh. Now, you did spend some of the AUDL offseason playing in North Carolina with Jack Williams, winning a club title. What kind of interactions did you have with the Flyers? And did you find out what's in the water down there?
Oh yeah, I know all their secrets. I literally know every single one of their pool plays. Like they just let us into the, they let us, what's the saying? They let us into the chicken coop, and we're just gonna eat all the chickens this year.
They are no longer in the division, so you're gonna have to wait. But it's
that's a good point.
Every time those teams match up, yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised that if you looked at some of our footage from this year, if our pool plays look somewhat similar to some of Raleigh's.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's about stealing. It's about, well, not stealing, but borrowing. If it works, then you borrow. If it works, if it doesn't work, then you stole it. But yeah, and as far as fleshing out this Empire roster, we've been talking about that. I mean, yes, the four of you are confirmed, but it'll continue to be added. There are players who we might not even know who might be added. I mean, I don't know how many superstars there are around the country, but we do want to once again announce, if you haven't heard, February 5th from 8 to 11 p.m. at Sono Fieldhouse in Norwalk, Connecticut. Now, yeah, we talked about this as far as, I mean, you guys are not part of any kind of special brain trust. There's, as far as the Empire putting everything together, there's a number of voices, a number of ideas, a number of people that are viewing tryouts, but Raleigh had some experience and a very young core winning the title, which has brought up the question, what is the perfect balance of youth and experience? And for the Empire in particular, how many young players do you think you can bring along at one time while also focusing on winning another championship? Just looking at the number of young players you brought along last year, because even Lithio, he's 27 years old. He has been around for a little while, even if he didn't play these elite levels. But you really last year did not blood that many young players. Could we see that be a little bit different this year with a number of young players that we might not even know about until next weekend? And Jeff, you can go first on this one.
Yeah. I'll just say that New York is really a difficult place for the younger than mine and Ryan's age, which is like 27, 28, and youth. There's a pretty decent high school scene here, but the college scene is pretty limited. And like, if you look at North Carolina with UNC Wilmington, teams that have been in the finals, have won the finals, and the Triangle area youth ultimate scene is just like a hotbed of ultimate players, like constantly growing through this system and playing with these people their whole lives. And then they go on to play on the pro team. And we unfortunately don't have that, but we do have the interesting thing about New York, which is it's a very transient city. And so we may receive some young players that, graduate from college or move here and would love to fill out our roster with 22 to 25-year-olds and have those players play in our system for years and develop and become great players. And I think that that's a possibility. And we've had players in the past that have come in young, but we need that every year, and we need people to be interested here, and we need to continue to grow the community like Raleigh has theirs.
Yeah, I like that answer. Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, I'd echo a lot of the things that Jeff just said. I mean, I've talked with like Jeff and Ben and Jack and other folks on the team already, and one of our main goals for this upcoming year is to, figure out how to build that culture. How do we get younger players interested and out to play and really truly commit to the system, and maybe trying to look at it as more of a multi-year process, like trying to build out some sort of process that is a multi-year thing, as opposed to just, obviously we want to win championships. It's like very important. That's like the main driver, but ultimately you got to look at the longevity of the organization as well. So we're definitely, going to be focusing very heavily on, how, what are the best steps for us to take to develop young talent. So we really hope that we get a lot of young people who are like very motivated, very interested in being on the team and learning and growing as players. If you're a young person and you have that passion and you're a good ultimate player, please come out. We want you to come and play for us, and we want you to learn and become a part of our team and our culture going forward.
Yeah, it is interesting where I think narratives sometimes get away from themselves, but it's in terms of eras of the league, you feel like DC is in the middle of their era, where they're in this middle of the wall. Rowan, we'll see how much longer he has his thing, but it's no longer just Rowan everything revolving around him. It seems like DC has fleshed something out, and they're in the middle of this era again. They're flooding new talent, like an AJ Merriman, who's now going to be there for 3 more years. And again, you look at Raleigh, it seems like they're at they ended one era, and now they're beginning another one with all these young players from 25 to 23 to 27, if you will. And for the Empire, you felt like, just going back to the championship year, you have players like a Matt Pippin, a Aletta, who've then retired, and you have that we'll say the core of that faceless mob who've either moved on or are getting into their 30s and into that time where they consider how many more years do I have left with this, and obviously having brought in Bo Kittredge, and then he leaves, and you feel like the Empire they're in this era where you feel like that next wave is coming, and a matter of how do you fill out and figure out who's in that next wave. So certainly, guys, I agree with all those points. And so we're going to wrap the show up with another lightning round. Somehow there are more questions out there to ask. I think Ben and Jack maybe got the easier ones, but for you, it's a little more centralized. So the Empire has 4 players signed so far, so it's not too complicated. I don't have to involve everybody in the team. Jack Williams, Ben Yacht, Ryan Osgar, and Jeff Babbitt. So your lightning round is a pick'em of sorts. You pick the player that best fits the superlative, and if you want to add a little explanation, please do. We are going to take turns with who starts on each question. You're both going to answer each question, though. So we are going to start with Ryan, starting with you. Of those 4 players that I mentioned, who is the most confident in themselves?
Ben Yacht.
Probably Yacht, yeah.
Yeah, I figured. For those at home, I don't know if we should wait a second to give people time, but I think that one is pretty set in stone. The 2-time MVP of the league, might win his 3rd. got plenty of confidence.
It depends on what we're talking about. Like if it's like a jump, it's me. Like I'm 100% confident I'm going to jump to where I need to jump. That kind of thing. But if we're talking about overall confidence, then yeah, probably.
All right, next one is who is the funniest of the four, Jeff?
Yeah, but not on purpose.
I don't know. I'd probably say I'd say myself. See, that's funny. Let's go.
Nice. All right, who smells the best after practice? Not worst. Who smells the best after a practice?
Who's going first?
I'll say Jack because I got no clue, and Jack's a clean guy.
I was gonna say Jack too, honestly. I don't know why, but probably just because he doesn't sweat that much. I'm just making that up. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, Ryan, you go first here. Biggest temper of the four of you?
Yacht.
Yacht.
So I don't even ask like who's most competitive in that way. It's probably Yacht too as well. All right, Jeff, loudest on the sideline.
Probably Yacht. Like I'm quiet.
Yeah, I am too. I think it's probably Yacht. I think Jack does get kind of rowdy every once in a while, but I think Yacht is just he's kind of a wild man.
Yeah. He's a loud, confident, competitive guy.
Who is Ryan the best cook?
The best cook, probably Jeff, I would think.
Certainly me.
Yeah.
I mean, I also said that, Jeff, I asked because we also are up above. If you're watching on the video version, we are linked to your cooking show. So, I mean, it's pretty fast.
So, Jeff, can you cook? Or I thought you were like, you're a baker, obviously, but I don't know if
I cook well too. Yeah.
Okay.
I do it all.
What is your best? I mean, what is your go-to? Not to say to impress people, but what is your go-to meal?
I mean, like I eat the same breakfast every day, which is like a bagel, sausage, and eggs. But if for dinner, I make meatball. I make a good breaded chicken parm. I make a lot of different things. Last night we had mahi.
Ooh.
Spice up a bit. All right, Jeff, who has the longest pregame warm-up ritual of the four?
Maybe Osgar. Like he does some stretches and things in addition to the warm-up.
Yeah, it's either me or Jack, I would say. But I don't think we don't have really a long workout. It's just like Jeff doesn't warm up and then is busy screaming or at someone. So I don't really know. I love this picture page of Ben right now. It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
All right. Who of the four of you, Ryan, has the best goal celebrations?
Jeff with the flexing and screaming at the other team. That's always classic.
Yeah, I think the only people that really celebrate are Yacht or I. So all I do is flex just because I'm big, probably Yacht. He ate ice cream once.
That's funny.
Yeah.
All right, Jeff, this one's probably actually the hardest one because none of you really have too much of a presence, but who is the best on social media?
Gotta be Jack, but not because he just is the one that posts the most, I think.
Yeah, it's Jack. And trade secret, Shayna is his girlfriend is running his social media accounts.
Well, that is the trade. That is the irony, because last week talking to Jack, we brought up something that Jack had tweeted, and Jack didn't know about what Jack had tweeted, and so almost proving that.
That's amazing.
So actually, the best social media of the four of you is none of you, and it's video. Okay.
In this off season, I was up at my parents' cabin with Jack and Shayna, and Jack wanted to tweet out so many things, and Shayna just was like, "No, you can't tweet that. You can't." So she's really got her hand in the cookie jar on that one.
Once you're a first team all AUDL player, I mean, people just they actually care what you have to say. It's a platform. It's a tough place to be. But all right,
so Jeff, you're saying I can say anything because I'm only second team. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's true. No one cares what you think or say, Jack.
Yeah,
second team or rookie of the year doesn't matter. All right, most likely to wear your Empire uniform to a wedding, Jeff. This is the last one. Which of the four of you would completely commit to wearing the Empire uniform at a wedding?
I mean, it's got to be Yacht or Jack, and I won't say why.
I would say Jack. Honestly, I would say Jack.
Okay.
Just because he forgot to bring a suit or something.
Yeah, and all he had in his bag was that's what I was thinking.
I'm sorry, Jack, if you're watching.
And then yeah.
Yeah, I think Jack will forgive us. But all right, guys, we're pretty much out of time here. So thanks so much again. That was Ryan, Oscar, Jeff out. Remember the tryout in Norwalk, Connecticut on February the 5th, 8 to 11 p.m. at Sono Fieldhouse. You heard it from all four of the all ADL first and second teamers that they are looking for some young blood. They are looking for some young talent. Hey, even if you're 32, 35 years old and you've not really been on the ultimate scene and you've got a lot of physicality, you know how to dunk a basketball with your eyes closed, you're happen to be Michael Jordan in the sky, show up and they might have a spot for you. So again, that is a reminder, Norfolk, Connecticut, February 5th, 8 to 11 p.m. at Sono Fieldhouse. So thanks again so much to you guys, Jeff and Ryan, and to the listeners. This wraps up another edition of the show. The entire New York Empire family. We'll talk to you soon.